Sound check. 1, 2, 3.
9:30. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Agenda Briefing Forum. This evening is not a decision-making forum. It is a briefing on the agenda for the Ordinary Council meeting, which will be held on next Tuesday, the 28th of May, 2024. I'd like to remind everyone in the chambers to ensure that your comments are respectful to the council and all meeting attendees, including city officers and those in our public gallery. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. There are no announcements this evening, so I'll move on to item 4, attendance. Councillor Sutherland is on leave of absence and Councillor Clark has provided an apology. All other councillors are present in the chamber. Item 5 is disclosures of interest. Are there any councillors who have an interest to disclose? Councillor Maleka.
Thank you. Yes, for item 13.1, potential land acquisition and parking, a deputy speaking tonight on the item is known to me as we have mutual acquaintances.
And you'll be staying in the room? Yep. Councillor Ladder.
Thank you. I have a financial interest on 13.1 because I own a business in the town centre that could potentially benefit from more parking in that location. So I will leave the room for those deputations. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, I'll move on to item 6, deputations. So this evening we have 3 in-person deputations and I'll explain how the process will work. Each person who is presenting will be invited to come forward and speak at the microphone for up to 5 minutes. As we get close to the 5 minutes, I'll let you know so that you can conclude your deputation. Once you have finished, councillors may have some questions for you. So our first deputation is in relation to item 10.3.4, request for the removal of trees. Georgina Kerr has requested to speak in opposition to the officer's recommendation. Please come forward. I'll just check if the microphone's on.
Thank you. My name's Georgina Kerr and I live in Bedford. So, as stated, this is in relation to agenda item 10.3.4. I currently live in Bedford, but I did live near Bath Road in Morley for a number of years with a young family and regularly walked along the road. I was disappointed to read the officer's recommendation on this agenda item to remove 2 mature, healthy street trees, with the main justification seeming to be to make reparation for an error by a former city employee. My objection to the officer's recommendation on this motion is multifaceted. Firstly, we all know the City of Bayswater is in a tree canopy crisis. Whilst we await the latest LiDAR survey data to get an idea of where we sit after hot summers, Metronet tree removals and pests such as the polyphagous shothole borer, I'm so proud I've learned to pronounce that properly. We know the city is already going to struggle to meet the tree canopy targets it set as part of the urban forest strategy. How then can the city possibly justify removing these 2 healthy specimens, curtailed as their canopies are from aggressive pruning? These trees are situated on a bus route, a pedestrian walk to schools, shops and the swimming pool, and they offer some respite in a suburb with woefully low tree canopy coverage. We also know that council recently approved a reduction in green space at one end of Bath Road, with good reason for a road safety measure, but nonetheless a further loss of canopy and shade for local residents. Secondly, the list of reasons given in favour of the trees removal is largely irrelevant and overreaching. Replacement trees planted now may die multiple times before taking successfully, given that residents have been told by city officers that the mortality rate of verge trees is approximately 10 to 15% due to a variety of good reasons: poor rootstock disease, pests, heat stress. Then even once they will take many years to match, let alone exceed, the canopy coverage of the 2 melaleucas. Reasons relating to future subdivision, I would argue, are surely out of scope for this decision. Thirdly, a search of publicly available records shows these trees have been at the property for longer than the current owner. The first available Google Maps image shows them as mature trees in 2007, and realestate.com.au lists the property as changing hands in 2011. This reminds me somewhat of people who buy property next to popular live music venues and then complain about the music noise. The trees were here first, the trees are a public benefit, the trees should stay. Fourthly, why is there a risk matrix given for voting against the officer's recommendation and yet no mention given of the risk voting for the officer's recommendation? Surely this creates a false dichotomy. The risk is assessed as high against governance and compliance, medium against environment, and extreme against reputation and stakeholders, all exceeding the city's adopted risk appetite. But how can keeping 2 mature, healthy trees be considered a medium risk against environment? And if this indeed does meet the measure, what's the risk rating if they are removed? Similar question marks hang over the other identified risks. An extreme risk to reputation by openly admitting a mistake was made and that the mistaken claim cannot be honoured, as opposed to what risk to reputation by admitting the mistake was made and then compounding that mistake by proceeding with the wrong action. If the aforementioned mistake presents a high risk to governance and compliance, what risk would it present to governance and compliance to completely contravene the city's own plans and strategies like the urban forest strategy? In conclusion, I urge councillors to place the greater good of the community above the intransigence of one property owner. Admit the mistake, apologise, but please do not compound the mistake by removing 2 perfectly healthy, mature trees.
Thank you. I'll just ask if any councillors have any questions. If not, thank you for your deputation. The next deputation is in relation to item 13.1, Councillor Peterson-Pick, Deputy Mayor, potential land acquisition for parking. Michael Heap has requested to speak in support of the motion and Councillor Latter is leaving the room. Please come forward.
Thank you very much. As already explained, my name is Michael Heap and I'm a business owner in the town centre of Maylands. I have a hair salon on Watley Crescent and have done for a period of 15 years with my husband. We also live around the corner on 9th Avenue, opposite Roxy Theatre, and very close to the piece of land in question. As the chair of the Maylands Business Association, I'm here also to discuss and hope that I can persuade some of you to consider this purchase as a very good investment and something that will be beneficial not only for the city of Bayswater, but also for the Maylands Town Centre and businesses therein, also visitors to the town centre. As the chair of the MBA, I tend to stick to making platters and dealing with canopies and canapes, etc. But all of the people who are on the advocacy committee were unable to attend tonight, so I'm here doing my best and I'll try and make some sense for you all. So first of all, the investment itself, the history of the investment. Many years ago it was sold and the dwelling remained intact, the house remained intact, but it was purchased by somebody who wished to build 21 units on that block with an underground car park and car stackers, etc., etc., which was deemed quite impractical because, and it was brought to council at that time, and it was rejected because of the fact that the developer was unwilling to observe the setbacks that were required. So he was going to build a giant rectangle of 21 units in the middle of the town centre. So that was rejected. He then sold that block to somebody else, and that person has also investigated the possibility of development and has given up also, it would appear. So it is now for sale again, and I think that perhaps that block of land is meant to be a car park because it would seem that it's not quite suitable because of its narrowness perhaps, or perhaps whatever, but it is, first of all, in a character protected area. Right next door to that block is a character home, currently owned and lived in by Margaret and Ross, who are a retired couple, and the reason that the 21 unit block was rejected, one of the main reasons was because of overshadowing. So their house would be overshadowed if that block was massively developed, and including solar panels, and including, of course, their garden would be in shadow for most of the year, all day. The block is 100 metres from the train station. It is next to land that is already owned by the council, City of Bayswater, and which is already used as a car park and a thoroughfare. So it makes very good sense to utilise that block of land to begin the process of addressing the shortfall of parking that does exist in Maylands Town Centre. As we are told by our clients, as businesses that are more than a decade old are told by visitors and clients, local clients as well, they are unable to find parking.
Mr. Heap, you've got 40 seconds.
Wow, is that 5 minutes already? Gee, that's quick. Okay, the possibilities, how could it look? How could the car park look? I'm thinking a parapet wall to provide privacy for Margaret and Ross. I'm thinking murals, I'm thinking trees, I'm thinking perhaps angled parking, I'm thinking perhaps parking perpendicular to the footpath on the street, which would add more bays and make it more viable as a car park. How am I going?
20 seconds.
20 seconds, thank you. It could be paid parking, which would mean that it could actually raise revenue for the City of Bayswater. And I think that would actually, it would need to be paid parking because we need to stop one of the main pressures, which is all-day parkers, park and riders. So I think that's all I have time for. There was more, but I'm not allowed. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Before you sit down, I'll just ask if any councillors have any questions for Mr. Heap. Councillor Johnson?
I'd just say I'd be happy for him to speak longer if that was an option that we could allow him.
Oh, thank you.
So is someone moving? Councillor Johnson is moving. Councillors... Exactly. Do you have much more to say, Mr.
No,
Heap?
not that much actually.
Okay.
I'd very much appreciate it if I could
Okay,
finish.
go ahead.
Thank you. So I was beginning to talk about the pressures, okay? So all-day parkers is one. The new town centre extension zone is another. This sort of area where people are putting businesses now into homes and renting out spaces in residential buildings surrounding the town centre. That is also meaning that there is more need for more parking. And of course developments with parking shortfall. So buildings, high-rise buildings which have perhaps 0.75 of a car parking space per unit. Some of those units are actually 3-bedroom units. The solution should be multifaceted. I hope that you will see this as a fantastic investment and a beginning. And really that is all I need to say. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillors, any questions for Mr. Heap? No. Thank you very much for your deputation.
Great, thanks a lot.
So our next one is in relation to the same item. Matthew Perroni has requested to speak in support of the motion.
Hello, my name's Matt Perroni. I've got a business called Sherbet in Maylands. Just like to follow up on the what Michael just spoke about. I'd just like this not to be a missed opportunity. You know, all the stakeholders to be considered. In the past, we have achieved a lot of success by adopting a positive and collaborative approach. We've advocated all the stakeholders in the town centre, including local businesses, primary schools, pharmacies, doctor's surgery, post office, all the local businesses, and we listen to everybody. And you know, there just needs to be a missed opportunity. Just can't happen. We referred to the parking strategy that was implemented, that we've been talking about for the last years, since 2016. You know, there's a parking strategy for Maylands. There still is no real parking strategy for Maylands. There's a new BWS redevelopment site, and I believe that there's only like 0.07 of a parking bay per unit. So I'd like to know where all those people are going to park. You know, the back of the car park in Maylands behind the Commonwealth Bank, that's all privately owned. Even my landlord where I am, I think when the next wave of units come around, he'll be, you know, developing that as well. I'm constantly taking cakes to people's cars, old ladies, everyone, and there just is no parking. A lady even said to me that she parked at a park around the corner. I don't even know where that park is. It's just so far away from the shop. If you were to drive down the streets, you'd see just people parking everywhere. There is no parking for the future. So I don't know how we're going to address that, but I know that if there's no parking in a few years' time, I'll probably be out of there because it'll just be a lost cause. Can anyone tell me, am I allowed to ask a question for anyone? No? No? Okay, no worries. All right, well, that's it then. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your deputation. Sorry, I'll just ask if Councillor, before you sit down, Mr Perroni, Councillors, any questions on this? Councillor Eveson.
Yeah, thank you very much for your deputation. Just something that was raised by the previous deputy in regards to paid parking as an option. Is that something that you would consider for the site?
Originally, I was always against paid parking, but I think if it has to be, then it has to be, because I think it's going to be better than nothing. So maybe, you know, 1 hour free, 2 hours free. I think it'll stop the people from parking and going to the city and working. So that would definitely be an option. Can I just read a little bit more if I've got a bit more time?
You do have more
Absolutely.
time.
Thank you. I believe that it's an important strategic purchase that the city shouldn't miss out. A lot could be used in the short-term, middle-term car parks in the future for some redevelopment. I'd also like to point out that a few years ago, the council approved purchasing a giant lot in the middle of the Morley Town Centre behind the Morley Markets from the state government. That's currently being used as a car park. The aim was to use the lot for future development. So that was done in the Morley area, and I'm hoping that the councillors will also support Maylands Town Centre by constantly being, you know, marked as, you know, residential development and the inner city living and all that type of thing. I just really think it's a huge thing. It's sitting right in front of us. It's not really going to cost any money. It's a block of land for the future. You'll have 2 blocks of land next to each other. I'm sure everyone knows all, you know, heard it all before, but I just can't seem to understand why it wouldn't be a grabbed opportunity. It's $1 million block of land. It's always going to be worth $1 million. You're paying yourself the rates. I can't see any downside to it, really. You know, that's how I feel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, so you've got your hand up.
Yes, sorry.
Sorry? Thank you, Mr Perroni. Yeah, all good. Councillor Eveson still has another question for you.
Yeah, sorry. No, all good. So similar to the previous deputy, living in Ninth Ave, do you notice, so you both mentioned that there's commuter parking that's going on, so people that are parking and then leaving for the day,
Absolutely.
catching the bus or the train into the
Absolutely,
city?
yeah. I see, because I leave sometimes 5:30 at night, and I see plenty of people with their knapsacks from the city. I have a car park with 20 parking bays. I rent the space, so I pay, you know, a lot of rent, and I have 20 parking bays, and I monitor that myself. So if I see people catching the train, I politely put a note on their car, tell them they can't do it. That's now people have found street parking, but where Michael lives on the corner of Warnes Ave and that 9th Avenue, all that, if you were to drive down that street, it's just dotted with cars. You have to wait for a car to come through, and that's just on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday. And I constantly talk to customers all day long. I'm there every day and talking to people, and everyone always says, geez, you can't find parking. So I don't know where the parking's going to come from, but there are 20 parking bays there that could be utilised, you know, and it won't really cost much, I don't think.
Mr Perroni, I just have a question. So I was just going to ask, are you aware that this item has been considered by council previously?
I do, yeah. Was it a bit of a split decision, was it? A bit of a...
So you're not aware of the previous council decision around this?
I probably didn't understand it correctly. A lady from the council did call me, and I think she said that it was considered, yes, but I don't think it's over the line yet. Is that correct?
So I'm just going to, just give me one moment.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a council resolution last month. There's been a few council resolutions, but the most recent one, council resolved to negotiate with the seller.
Oh, okay. So it means it's a goer.
That was the resolution at the April meeting.
Okay.
So I just wanted to understand whether you were aware of that or not.
I wasn't aware that it was, as I said, over the line, but I knew that it was being still discussed. But I think there was a few
I
that
I wouldn't use the term over the line. I would just say that there was a council resolution in which council resolved to negotiate, as with any property
negotiate
sale,
with the
with
seller.
the seller.
Okay. Oh, that's fantastic. So instead, I should say thanks very much.
Well, that's what council has already resolved.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to. Council, we've had a request for another deputation to be heard. It wasn't registered, given that we've already heard from everybody else and there isn't many people in the gallery. I'm inclined to accept to hear the deputation, although I am aware that some of the subject matter that's going to be raised could be confidential. So for that, we're going to have to go behind closed doors in order to hear the deputation. So I can move. I can move to go behind. I'm going to move to go behind closed doors. Do I have a seconder? I can go behind closed door. Okay. So I'm sorry. I'll just have to ask the other members in the gallery to leave whilst we go behind closed doors and listen to the deputation.
Yeah, can we tell the people that we are coming
You're
back?
welcome to come. So councillors, we've received one written deputation tonight relating to item 10.3.4, request for removal of trees. This has been provided to councillors and is available on the city's website, and I'll take that as read. So I'll now move on to item 7, questions on agenda reports. I haven't received any advanced notice of any councillors having questions on any of the reports. I'll just go around and just check, are there any questions from councillors on any of the reports? Councillor Johnson?
Yeah, thank you. A couple of questions.
Which
Do we
item?
start or just 10.2.4?
10.2.4, yep.
And sorry, I didn't provide in advance. I forgot. 10.3.4 and I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, if you'd like to start with 10.3.4.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, what is the plan for the replacement of these trees if they were to be removed?
I'll go to the director.
Sorry, what was the question?
Thank you. What's the plan to replace these trees if council were to agree to remove them next week?
So the plan would be to, if the trees are removed, they'll be removed first, obviously, to be able to get in there and remove them. And then we're looking at planting a tree between the footpath and the curb. The plan is to put one large species tree, so one that's going to generate a lot more canopy than the 2 existing trees at the moment.
When would that be planted?
They'll be planted as part of the winter planting program
Which year?
this current year.
Okay. And what species are you proposing? Or do you have a species in mind?
That species hasn't been selected at this point in time, but it will be basically recommended by the city's parks manager.
Okay. So to replace the canopy that's already there, how long do you think that would take?
Through the chair, that depends on the type of tree that we put in there because trees grow at different rates, but I'd say it'd probably take at least 10 years.
10 years. Okay. And what would be the survival rate given the last summer that we've had and the amount of dead trees that we've had in that time? Do we have a sense of what the chance of a survival of a new tree would be if it were planted this year?
So I would suggest that the survival rate would be somewhere between 10 to 15% failure in terms of trees. When I say that, when we plant new trees, we have a failure rate of about 10 to 15%. So what we're saying there is that the tree will be watered. It will form part of the tree planting program, so it'll be watered. And what we're also proposing is that we'd basically do some extra work on the verge to allow more water to penetrate that verge from the road environment as well, as part of a water sensitive urban design treatment.
Do you have any idea of how much that would cost? The tree plus the verge preparation plus watering for the first so many years?
I don't have that figure at the moment. It forms part of the overall planting program, but I can provide some information before the council meeting in terms of how much it will cost for that individual tree.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. Thank you. Also, perhaps, and it might be also on notice, is how long it would need to be watered for and how much the watering would cost. Thank you.
Anyone else have a question on this same item? Deputy Mayor?
Yes, thank you. Several questions, please. First of all, who is going to pay for the removal of those 2 trees?
I'll go the director.
It would be done by the city.
What is the cost for that?
Again, it's part of we've got a contract in place in terms of tree removals, but I can provide that information for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. We understand that the deputy is supportive of planting an alternative tree. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is the deputy also aware that it will be a different type of tree with more canopy?
Through the chair, I believe so.
Okay. What assurances are the city planning to set to ensure that the tree is going to stay there, as we do with, for example, building sites?
Through the chair, it will be managed the same way as any other tree on our verges.
Okay. I'm trying to understand the replacement of 2 existing mature trees with 1 tree that will have more canopy. What is the logic of doing that? Removing 2 trees that currently provide canopy with 1 that will take quite a long of time as we head until we get the canopy with 1. What is the rationale with that?
Through the chair, there's a few points written in the report that describes the reasoning behind going for 1 tree with a larger tree, but in a better location. And I know it will take longer to generate the canopy. It will take up to 10 years potentially, maybe a bit more. But the longer term outcome is that we'll have more canopy coming from that tree, and we'll select a species that's perhaps more suited to that environment and one that will perhaps shade the road more than what the current trees do.
Thank you. Can you elaborate more about that admin error? What really happened there? So has the arborist promised to remove those 2 trees? What really happened there? Is this confidential?
I'm going to go to the CEO.
Thank you. It is in the report.
Yeah, through the chair, staff matters would be confidential, so happy to go behind closed doors and respond to that question. But as we've indicated within the report, the advice that was given in error by a former city employee, and that's certainly not actions that's condoned or supported by the current management at the city.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm trying to understand the admin error, which obviously happens sometimes. Why would that be equivalent to removing 2 trees? Why would an apology won't be sufficient in this case? I'm trying to understand why an admin error that happened equivalent to now removing 2 trees with all the financial cost and loss of canopy.
Through the chair, I suppose the matter's coming before council, and it's been before council previously. The resident or the property owner it feels aggrieved by the situation. So we brought it before council, and when we've actually looked into the trees, we do believe that there could be a better tree planted in that space along that street. The trees are close to the boundary of the property. We believe that a better tree could be placed closer to the road. They can still shade the footpath and shade the road. So that's why we've basically taken the opportunity to present the report with an alternative solution for the situation.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Councillor Latta?
Are you able to just elaborate the reasons why we might remove a tree under our current policies?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, under the current policy, the officers can't remove the tree. So that's why the matter's before council.
Okay, but there are some reasons why we would remove a tree under our current policy, correct? Like if it was dangerous or dead? Are there other reasons or just those 2?
Through the chair, there are other reasons. Yes, if a tree's dangerous or if it's dead, we'd remove it. There's other reasons. If it's causing damage to infrastructure, we probably also remove the tree. So there are circumstances where we do carry out inspections and do an assessment, and if it meets the criteria in the policy, then we'd remove it and we'd make that decision as officers. But where we can't meet that criteria and the property owner insists on the tree being considered by council, we bring it to council, and hence that's why this one's here tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Any other Councillor Bull?
Where would, if the trees were to be removed, where would the single tree that's going to have larger canopy be planted?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, it's planted between the footpath and the curb line. So there is a strip of verge there. So it'll be planted along there. At the exact location hasn't been determined, but that will be, if the decision goes ahead to replace it and put a new tree there, we'll go and work out exactly where it needs to go.
Thanks. Next question. Could 2 trees be planted in that verge?
Through the chair, I suppose two trees could be planted, but if you put one large tree with a large canopy, sometimes it's not good practice to put two trees close together where the canopies will interfere with each other.
So this is the first time that I can remember being on council where we're being advised to put one tree instead of two trees on the verge. The goal is always to put as many trees on the verge as are capable. Why are we receiving advice that is different to the approach that we have been taking since I can remember, since I've been on council? What has changed?
Go to the director.
Through the chair, and we were taking advice from staff that are professionals in this particular field, so they've recommended putting one large tree rather than putting multiple smaller trees in there.
Doesn't answer my question. I'm interested to understand what has changed.
I'll go to the director. I think he answered the question. It's up to you. Director, do you have another response to that?
Through the chair, I mean, I thought I answered it, that, yeah, one large tree instead of two smaller trees, but if council was to decide to put more trees in there, we can put more trees in there.
Thank you. And one last question. Actually, I'll hold on from that. Thank you.
Any other questions on this item, councillors? No? Okay. Councillor Johnson, your next item was 10.2.4.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to check if we can get an update on this item, given and when we're going to get the report, given it's currently out for public consultation until Thursday, I think it is, and how we're going to, if deputations, how the public can, respond to the report, perhaps to ask if we could have deputations on the item heard next week.
I'll go to the Director of Finance. Corporate.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the submissions do close on Thursday, 4:30 p.m. The report will be prepared on Friday and reviewed on Monday and distributed by close of business Monday, and the Mayor would be able to accept deputations at the council meeting.
Any other questions?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it only gives our committee a day to respond to, quite a big change. I'm just wondering if there's a way. I know it's a really tight time frame. I completely appreciate that. Just wondering if there is any way of getting that report out earlier.
I'll go to the Director.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we can discuss that tomorrow and see if we can fast track the report. But there is a lot of information that needs to be addressed, going through and reviewing all of the submissions and providing comments back for council. So it may not be able to be delivered any earlier.
Any other questions on this item? Councillor Latta?
I just wonder if it's possible to know how many submissions have been received so far.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I looked at this yesterday and it was rough from memory about 33 or 34.
Any other questions on this item? No? Are there any questions on any other items? Deputy Mayor?
Yes, please, on my motion, urgent item 13.1.
Yep.
Yep, I have a question, please.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. So with regard to the purchase, are the negotiations with the owner still occurring?
I'll go to the CEO.
Through you, Madam Mayor. As per my memo last week, councillors, the seller indicated their position, and that's the last I've heard from the seller at this stage.
Are we able to receive public comment about the position for those who are here, so they know where it's at?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I enacted the council resolution from the last council meeting, and made the offer to the seller, and the seller at this stage verbally has not accepted that.
Can we elaborate what was the reason to explain the deputies why the purchase is not going ahead?
So through you, Madam Mayor, there was conditions that council set, which was a confidential attachment in terms of the conditions, and it was one of those conditions, Madam Mayor, that the seller did not agree to.
Thank you. I appreciate that, CEO.
Any other questions on this item? Okay. Any other questions on any other item? Councillor Johnson.
My apologies, I did leave out a question. I had a question, please, on 10.3.3, the tendering process, the river foreshore restoration. My question was on Part A, the bit on Riverside Gardens and Hines Reserve. I'm just wondering if the scope of this project includes either including or enabling the installation of accessible rowing or accessible beach for the rowing clubs at Hines Reserve.
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, it will include pretty much everything that's included in that reserve area. So Riverside Gardens, also Hines Reserve, including the actual foreshore and access to it. So that all that will be incorporated into the project.
Okay, I mean, just to clarify, because obviously the rowing club at the moment and the rowers are trying to work towards some sort of accessible jetty, and I'm just wondering if that would be able to be, able to proceed under the scope of these works or included. So it's something new that's not there currently.
Through the chair, I'll probably have to take that one on notice and get a bit more information before the council meeting.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Any questions on any other items? Councillor Latta.
Thank you. On 10.3.2 about the overflow parking at Maylands Waterland, just wondering if the areas where the bollards have been removed already on the parkland, if those are going to remain as additional parking bays or if they will be returned to grass.
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, the intention is to leave the bollards where they've been relocated, and that will remain as grassed areas, so it's not going to be actually constructed into hard stand parking.
Any other questions on this item? Any questions on any other items? I have a question in relation to 10.4.1 Terms of Reference Reconciliation Advisory Committee. And I don't know if the director is able to answer this. So my question is, what was the rationale for the more frequent meetings?
Through the chair, my understanding is that the rationale was that they wanted to be able to address matters more quickly as they came up and to allow them to understand the role of that committee in the first couple of months, which is why they were looking at the 4 months at the start.
Sorry, can you just repeat that?
That they wanted to be able to establish themselves as a committee and set up their understanding of their role in the first 4 months, and so they needed the extra meetings to be able to do that and to be able to address matters as required.
Are there matters that haven't been addressed in a timely manner?
Through the chair, there has been some items which may be slightly delayed, but not significantly.
Okay, do you have a question?
No, but I can probably answer that question.
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah, because I was obviously in that meeting and chairing it. So they had some concerns because the group hadn't met since August last year because there was the election and then the delays around establishing those committees because we were sorting out some of those details. And I think they really wanted a bit of a demonstration of our commitment to the process and to show that like we did really want to engage with them and do this work. We also only got through maybe a third of the agenda that we were given for that meeting. It was really huge because there's quite significant backlog. So yeah, I think those things combined meant that they requested it, and it came from the community members through that discussion. So I don't know if anybody else at that meeting has anything to add to that, but that's my recollection.
Thank
of it.
you. Anyone else have a question on this item? No? Any questions on any other items? If not, I will then close this evening's agenda briefing forum at 7:54 p.m. Thank you, councillors.